Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Well, we've covered here at Infowars the past few weeks unbelievable attacks against Trump supporters, even people that just have an American flag. We have an article, it's up on our website. It was written by Paul Joseph Watson, and it talks about how one U.S. veteran was actually attacked. His home was vandalized, torched by anti-Trump extremists. The word cracker was spray painted on his house. Yet another hate crime attack. We've been covering these for the past few weeks. Now, this Navy veteran, he had 2 young children in his home. It was vandalized, graffitied with racial slurs, both inside and out, before they set it on fire, if you can believe that. This, of course, happening in Plant City, Florida. He told the local Fox affiliate, Fox 13 there, you know what, we just want to be able to figure out our problems, work together. He didn't have any ill will towards anyone. And here was his crime. This is why they targeted him. He had 3 flags flying outside in front of his home, the American flag, a POW flag, and the U.S. Navy flag. That's why they sought him out and did this to his house. Now, they left a few clues behind, and the presumption is that these were Black Lives Matter supporters because of the racial slurs that they were using. While they set his home on fire, which is unbelievable. I can't even imagine this close to Christmas, coming out of Thanksgiving. You have 2 small children in the house, and they actually set his house on fire. They actually spray painted the words FUCK Trump, BLM, and burn everything. So clear agenda with this. And yeah, this is the tolerant left that we keep hearing the mainstream media talking about, you know, people that just want to be heard. They're very tolerant and embracing, unless, of course, you show support for America or for Donald Trump, our president-elect, then you're subject to have your house burned. Just a caveat to this story. And this man's name was Matthew Smith. His home is in foreclosure, and he has no insurance on the house. So they're not able to recover any of the damage done whatsoever to their property. Oh, but guess what? That's all right, because Black Lives Matter, they need to be heard. This is the group that Soros has dumped so much money into funding, because we know that they want to create chaos all across the U.S. We've covered people being beaten, being stomped, their cars being stolen. Now, this veteran having his home set on fire because he supports America. Now, Donald Trump is coming under fire a lot. He's always been coming under fire, frankly, but more so now than ever because he's the president-elect. The mainstream media, they have been hounding him relentlessly regarding his business ventures and specifically his investments abroad. Apparently, the community organizer that has been president for 8 years, that was barely a senator, 1 term, not even 1 term, when he took office, that's fine. But if you're a job creator, if you have the audacity to start businesses and employ people, we have a serious constitutional issue. We have an article up on our website written by Paul's brother, Steve Watson, entitled "Trump Quits All Business to Focus on His Presidency." He's taking the right approach here, and his enemies, they are looking for any way possible to get him out of office even before he begins. Now, the Brookings Institute was cited in this article. I want to take you through specifically what they're saying. They're saying that the U.S. Constitution, of course, we know Brookings is a very left-leaning progressive think tank, if you can call that thinking, in Washington, D.C., and they're saying that the payments and presents and other things of value that would be given to an American political official, including president, that's forbidden. So Trump is going to have to leave behind and sacrifice all of his businesses. The Guardian, concluding this earlier in the week, they said Trump was totally wrong when he said the conflict of interest doesn't apply to me. Well, he isn't totally wrong. The Constitution doesn't specify things like this, but he's doing the right thing. He's approaching his detractors with peace, I might add. He's taken to Twitter and addressed the situation, and he's saying, look, I'm going to go ahead 2 weeks from now and address this, and by the way, we're just going to go ahead and let go of everything, and I'm just going to focus on the American people, creating jobs, getting our economy going. We know he's a builder, but his personal interests he's going to have to leave behind. This coming out, and of course the media, we understand that they're losing the war. Leanne McAdoo and I cover this later on in the show for you, but I wanted to take you to this report because it is so unbelievable. Our in-house resident reporter, Joe Biggs, he actually broke this story about Breitbart being dropped from the Apple marketplace. They didn't want to even service their customers anymore. And Apple has removed this Breitbart News app from iTunes, the marketplace, in a fantastic censorship of free speech and true journalism. That's what you're going to get here, folks. The mainstream media wants to silence it. They are not happy. Despite Breitbart having over 168 million page views in October alone, they don't seem to care about their bottom line at all. Of course, we know Steve Bannon. He was appointed to head up Donald Trump's presidential campaign. He later transitioned and he was appointed as chief strategist for the White House. And they have done everything they can to smear Mr. Bannon, to paint him as a white supremacist, a neo-Nazi. You know, something that I found particularly appalling, CNN, they did an expose on my boss, Alex Jones, last night. And they had the audacity to leave the cryon up for 7 seconds. I was counting 7 seconds where Alex was talking about Donald Trump. And underneath it, this blatant lie, they write KKK leader is happy about Bannon appointment. It's an unbelievable, unbelievable mind warp that all of them are in. They don't seem to realize all of us are onto them. All of us get it. It's not winning. And Twitter just isn't having it. You know, Twitter should actually write Donald Trump a check, because prior to Donald Trump, frankly, who really paid that much attention to Twitter? You know, we do as reporters, but frankly, it skyrocketed because of Donald Trump. And we have this breaking story for you. Twitter, it's considering banning Donald Trump. Here's Joe Biggs with more.
Joe Biggs here with Infowars.com. Now, we've seen over the last year how Twitter really censors conservative news outlets, and we have this whole atmosphere being built that there's this epidemic of fake news, when in actuality, the mainstream media has been the fake news. They're the ones that said Donald Trump couldn't win. They're the ones that said that there isn't any voter fraud, when there's a woman right now who's going to jail for 5 years in Iowa for voting multiple times. Voter fraud is real, and the fake news is the mainstream media. And here at Infowars.com, we've been trying to bust through that whole thing to get through to people. And now we have one of the ultimate trolls, our president-elect Donald Trump, who uses Twitter all the time, and it becomes a huge topic of conversation. Like last night on CNN, they were talking literally for hours about how Donald Trump tweets too much. And one of the Republican senators came on and goes, "Why don't you guys ever get this upset about our Second Amendment issue rights? Why don't you ever get this upset about anything else? Instead, you sit around and you're complaining about him going out here and tweeting." And here we have this right here. Twitter says it would consider banning Donald Trump's account. The president-elect of the United States is a notorious troll, a fact which his promise to ban Muslims from entering the country, threat to imprison and strip Americans of citizenship for exercising their First Amendment rights. And a caveat to that, this is a law that was proposed in 2005 by Hillary Clinton, and what they're talking about is anyone who desecrates, burns a flag, could be sentenced up to a year in jail or a $100,000 fine. Now, that's what Hillary Clinton said back in 2005. Trump said, hey, let's just ban them, and they can't be citizens anymore, and, you know, maybe some jail time or something like that. So he's just kind of trolling them like he always does, and they fell for it. But it's at a point right now where Jack Dorsey, Obama's buddy, rubs elbows with Black Lives Matter, DeRay McKesson all the time, is at a point where he is so triggered by President-elect Donald Trump that they would literally go to the point of banning Donald Trump's account. And that would lead to what? A huge exodus from Twitter. That would be the death of Twitter. Everyone from the right would completely leave and go over to Gab. Gab has become this new platform that is giving conservatives and so many other people who've been censored over the last few years a chance to actually speak freely, talk about whatever the topics they want, and self-censor and mute out certain things that they don't want to hear.
Well, while the media is waging war on Trump, there's an internal war going on in this country, largely fueled by the likings of George Soros, Black Lives Matter, that sort of thing. And I'm specifically talking about Charlotte, North Carolina. They are bracing themselves for absolute rioting in the streets. This coming after the officer in Keith Scott's shooting escapes charges. We have an article up on our website, also written by Paul Joseph Watson. It talks about how Twitter is urging the rioters on the ground in Charlotte to target white areas. I brought you a couple of tweets. They're unbelievable. This one coming out of #BrokenJeremy. If you do riot, Charlotte, don't make it entertainment for, quote, them by tearing up your own side of town. Do it downtown. Hey, why not? And then I've got another one. Riot are going to happen. This always happens to us only when Trump white nationalists get shot. that cop will catch a case then. So he's basically calling for a president-elect to be shot because then it will get some attention. Let's just ignore the facts surrounding this case. And I'm not denying that there's police brutality in this country, but look, taking to the streets and burning everything down and beating up perfect strangers to deal with it might not be the best course of action, and you might just be a little brainwashed. Just food for thought there. This is going on in our streets here in the States, and Alex talked about earlier, we have a video up for you about how NATO is now declaring war with Russia. We have that to worry about as well. Take a look at this.
Massive wars are something that most people never believe can actually happen until it actually happens. Like a Mount Vesuvius erupting or a Mount St. Helen. Those sleeping mountains seem like they're dead until they awaken and rain down fiery death. Most geopolitical analysts believe that the world is closer to a new world war than ever before. Trump being elected obviously took the defense condition from 2 and 3 back to 5, back to the lowest condition, and there is some detente going on. But Erdogan, who has had all sorts of problems in Turkey, he basically staged his last election, that's admitted. There's been attempts to overthrow him, there's been multiple coup attempts, everybody knows about that. He came out yesterday, and this has gotten no attention in Western press. Michael Snyder wrote about it for Economic Collapse blog. It's on Infowars.com. And if you read his headline, it's not sensational. It's what's happening. Turkey has declared war on Syria. Does this mean that World War III is about to erupt in the Middle East? Now, let me explain what this really means. It actually means war in the Middle East between NATO and Russia has been declared by NATO, but it doesn't mean that that physical war has started yet. But it's kind of like the horse's gates open and the buzzer sounds and the gates open. So he's a NATO member. There's a defense pact with all the NATO nations, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, set up after World War II, that if one nation attacks, they will all back that nation, or if one of those nations is attacked, they will back that nation. So you've got Turkey, gateway to the West, basically playing chicken with the world or holding the world hostage. He came out 2 days ago and said, if you don't accept millions more migrants and give me billions more dollars and give me more power in the EU, I'm going to just let millions of more Middle Easterners come in out of Syria. All the folks from the Middle East that basically invaded that country, part of the 5-year-old Arab Spring that our government's financed openly. So the West starts all this. Turkey's involved. They've been attacking Syria for 5 years with aircraft and with bombers and with artillery and with tanks. But now, this is in the mainline state-run Turkish news. I mean, I didn't just believe this article. I went and looked it up. They've rolled in with tanks, fighter bombers in the north, and they say, quote, we are going to overthrow the tyrant Bashar al-Assad, and has declared war on Syria officially. Now, he does that because that triggers NATO. Now, who's got a defense agreement with Syria? And who's been invited in by Syria? And who didn't start this 5 years ago? Russia. I'm not picking sides here, folks. This is crazy.
Well, arguably, we have averted a war with Russia because we've elected Donald Trump. And I had the great opportunity of talking to Dr. Jill Stein about that. And she told my camera guy and I, Rob Jacobson, that in fact, if Hillary Clinton was elected, we would most certainly be going to war with Russia, folks.
She led the way in Libya. She's trying to start an air war with Russia over Syria, which means if Hillary gets elected, we're kind of going to war with Russia, folks.
And she's changing her tune. We have an article for you, The Delusional Melodrama of Jill Stein. This was featured on Drudge, and it talks about how most people, they couldn't wait for the grueling, nasty election of 2016 to be over. And Jill Stein apparently wants to keep it going. Of course, she's demanding that recount in specific states. Why? Who the heck knows? Because she wasn't a Clinton supporter. She's demanding recounts in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And it really demonstrates the melodramatic nature of this woman. She clearly doesn't care about the country. One report said that she'd accepted 6.1 million in donations. It's up to, some reports say, 11 now. Why is she doing this? We need to question her motivation, get to the bottom of it. Did she see that Bernie Sanders perhaps took a little money because he stepped aside and she's wanting her cut of that? Because she's really changed her tune since the last time she spoke to Infowars. And it's really disconcerting to me as a reporter looking at it going, why in the heck is she doing this now? Because she has no chance of ever becoming president of the United States. It looks like she just wants the attention, frankly. And speaking of attention, I could not pass this story up. I handpicked this just for you to add a little levity to the evening of hard news. I found this article about a parking lot brawl that happened in Southwest Los Angeles. You know, I don't know why we just can't all get along. I can't imagine going through a knockdown, drag out, two women fighting over a parking space. They take it to the floor. They begin pummeling each other. One of them gets in her car, runs over a hydrant, drives off, nearly takes off the door of the opposing car. When she comes back, we have a little snippet of video footage just for you. Take a look.
Stupid.
Finally tonight, some news about the Democrats. They are in disarray, and frankly, I couldn't be happier. They haven't gotten it together yet. They have reelected Nancy Pelosi now as minority leader in the House. 14 years of this woman. The only reason she's in power is because she's female. 74 years old, coming out of San Francisco. She was unsuccessful as speaker. Didn't stop her. Now she's the minority leader. Poor old Democrats. They're just never going to learn.
In case you haven't heard, Infowars has become the most influential media outlet in America. We're making freedom go viral. And now we are proud to announce a new weapon in the epic battle against the globalists. Infowars Prime, where you can watch live high-definition feeds of The Alex Jones Show, plus exclusive insider videos from the Infowars crew and behind-the-scenes action. Go to Infowars.com/app and download today. Infowars Prime is available right now for your iPhone or Android. You will have access to exclusive videos that you can't see anywhere else. And that means live coverage of events and breaking news on location as it happens. You can also take advantage of amazing deals from the Infowars store that are only available for Infowars Prime subscribers. That's Infowars Prime at Infowars.com/app. And if you can hear my voice, you are the resistance.